What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from Zoom again, and this time we are here with Mike D of Killswitch Engage, Overcast, and Ray Vision. Thank you so much for being on here today, man. It's great to have you here.
Thanks for inviting me. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Anytime.
Let's do it.
Anytime, man. Anytime. This new Ray Vision album is absolutely kick-ass. No Mercy from Electric Eyes. Kind of wanted to get this question out of the way. Was the Electric Eyes kind of like a Judas Priest reference in a way?
It ended up being that way, but I mean, every piece of art that I make has something coming from the eyes for Ray Vision, so it just made sense. But I think Judas Priest snuck in there for sure. It definitely had something to do with it.
Yeah, I don't think.
And actually, someone said that's too Judas Priest. Maybe we should change it. And it was such a good title, I couldn't change it.
Yeah, I feel like every metal band I've interviewed thousands of bands at this point, and I don't think I've done one without them mentioning Judas Priest either on or off the air. So.
Sure, yeah. Great band. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Definitely inspired us.
For people who haven't heard the full album yet, though, do you feel like the first singles that we heard so far, such as Behead the King or From the Rafters, is like maybe a good representation of what this whole album is going to sound like, or is that just like the tip of the iceberg?
I kind of hope. I don't know. Is the first time Metal Blade left it up to us to figure out what the quote unquote singles were, because there weren't going to be radio hits, you know? So we just chose ones that we really felt like encompassed what the band was doing now and really showed off Keith's vocal stylings, the new guy in the band. And those are the two we picked. There are a few more that are pretty great and could be single worthy. And I just started doing After Effects. So I made a couple of lyrical videos. So there'll be on the lookout for that. Two more probably singles or something coming out soon.
Oh, wow. I mean, I'm so used to looking at your album covers and your merch designs to now see the Mike D touch on the lyric videos. I'm excited to see that. So.
Yeah, I stumbled into it. It's a lot like Photoshop. So you can just add tons of layers to it and make them all fly all over the place. And it just looks crazier and crazier the more you add to it. I started doing stuff for Killswitch Engage for the LED screens in the background, I think on Slipknot. And that was 2 years ago, and just gradually, started working towards making lyric videos. I want to eventually make a video. I got a couple of GoPros, and I think I could probably pull it off. It'll be pretty simplistic, but that's like my goal.
Oh,
to do a video.
I can't wait. I can't wait to see how you would bring Adam D into your videos too. It'll be probably like it'll be the most Killswitch Engage thing I'll ever see in my life.
Might be too inside jokey. I don't know. We'll see.
I mean, every joke that's said on stage I think I've seen Killswitch Engage maybe 17 times now, and I think every joke on stage is always a good experience. So.
They get us too. I don't know if you could ever see us laughing, but when we're laughing, it's because we legitimately have no idea what that guy's going to say, and he really busted us up with something. Yeah. Some of them are inside jokes. Most of them are just like what you see right in the crowd there. But he comes up with some zingers that sometimes make us stop playing.
Well, I mean, I love because somebody's hung out with Jesse plenty of times and stuff. He's very passionate, and I can tell that he takes his craft and everything very seriously. So when it's like, this song is about overcoming the dark times, and Adam is like, yeah, and stop sucking all that trucker dick. It's just like, what? Like the contrast.
It's sort of, it's like good cop, bad cop kind of feel to it. It's great. The straight man and the funny man.
Exactly.
It's a really good dynamic.
Absolutely.
It's fun. Adam can go overboard occasionally here and there, and we have to kind of rein him in a little bit. But for the most part, we just let that guy fly and do whatever the heck he wants to do. And we don't even want to know. We just want to see it on stage and witness it like everyone else.
Fair enough. With No Mercy from Electric Eyes, being that there was a lineup change for Ray Vision, and is this the first one on Metal Blade as well?
It is, very first. Yep. Yeah, we were doing stuff on Bullet Tooth with Josh Gerbel, who used to do Trust Kill Records. Nice, cool hardcore scene, very, very great guy. He did above and beyond anything we could possibly think of for the last couple of records. But we just thought maybe we'd try to take a step into the major, or I wouldn't say major label, but independent record label scene. Just take a giant step forward and see how it goes. And it's going pretty well. Everyone at the label's amazing. We deal with them with Killswitch too, and I love all those guys. It feels like a really good fit for the band to be there. And like I said, everyone's just so helpful, especially with After Effects. I constantly am just, sending ideas to some people and seeing if they're going to fly or not, and getting opinions. And it's really fun to bounce ideas off of people like that. People in the know.
Of course, and you have a great team of people behind you, and you should definitely get a sponsorship from Adobe now with all the After Effects plugs.
We'll see about that.
But do you feel like No Mercy from Electric Eyes is pretty much like a new start for Death Ray Vision, or do you feel like maybe it still continues in a similar vein from Negative Mental Attitude and We Ain't Leaving Till You're Bleeding, etc.?
It's definitely another, like I said, a giant step forward, a fresh start with a new singer. Unfortunately, our original singer, the band got together about 10 years ago with Brian Fair. I called him up out of the blue and just said, "Hey, you want to do something when we're not touring? Want to just waste some time and play some bars and play some hardcore covers?" And unfortunately, well, Brian did it for a few years, but had to move away. And one of the things about this band is you kind of have to be local, because we're just playing local stuff. We're playing when we're not on tour. So Brian had to bow out. Jeff was next. We did the last record with Jeff, and it went really well, but unforeseen things just were gnawing away at us, and it just didn't really feel as cohesive as it should have. Unfortunately, sometimes that's the way it goes down after you finish a record.
Yeah. Well,
but that's what happened.
Well, I was going to ask because with the formation of Death Ray Vision, being that you and Brian also played in Overcast together, if maybe like there was sort of like a similar chemistry in the organic nature that was founded in. And also, I might as well just mention this now, because next year is going to be 30 years of the debut Overcast album, Expectational Dilution, which I believe was the first album that you released too. So like, kind of two questions in one. Did maybe, being that you played with Brian before, did the formation of Death Ray Vision have a similar chemistry like that? And can maybe we see like a celebration of that Overcast record in the future as well?
I didn't even think about it. Maybe. I'm so far into Death Ray Vision right now. I'd have to change gears dramatically, but we're kind of practiced up. We've Overcast played. Was it last summer? I don't know. We played pretty recently, so we kind of know what's going on. Okay. So the things with Jeff unfortunately didn't work out. So we were looking for a new singer. We had a whole crop of new songs. It was around the pandemic. We were talking about trying out a bunch of people, and Keith's name had been brought up, and we had known Keith he used to play bass in Wrecking Crew. He's in this band called Panzer Bastard, and Overcast had played with Panzer Bastard a few times. Just loved his voice. And it kind of had the feel that we really wanted to go for with this band, more of a gritty COC maybe vibe to it. So we asked him, and everyone thought, oh, there's no way he's going to want to do it. He's just an older statesman, and just like he's probably first generation Boston hardcore guy, and just someone we look up to. So we figured he wouldn't want to do it, and he wanted to do it. So we got him in as soon as possible before he could say no, and started practicing with him right away, and fell in love like instantly with that guy, his vibe, the feel of everything. All the records previous, we love New York hardcore. We love, Overcast paid so much homage to New York hardcore. It's my favorite type of music. And all the names of the first few records are in that vein, like these skinny guys that couldn't, beat up a fly are doing We Ain't Leaving Till You're Bleeding. And like everything from the song titles is just tongue in cheek, like, we're just a fake tough guy band. So if you never saw us, you probably think we were like ready to come down, an alley and kick some heads in. Not the case whatsoever. Now we kind of have a legitimate tough guy in the band, so he can claim legitimacy.
You should have played with Biohazard this past weekend. I was just at that reunion show.
I wish
that was a kick-ass.
I love Biohazard, man. We would do that in a heartbeat. Did you have fun?
Oh, it was. They played because I never seen them. Like, it's funny. Forgive the vulgarity of this statement, but like, so here's some old school fans. Who goes back with this first record? They were like, "Did you?" I was like, "I was busy swimming in my father's, like back in the day." Like,
Yeah.
So like to finally get like that, opportunity to hear those first three albums with that lineup. And I've interviewed Billy before when he was doing Power Flow, so like it was good to kind of like see them being like, yeah, I also interviewed them before that happened. So it was a fantastic experience. That was one of the most violent pits I've ever seen in my life. But
I do not doubt that. I do not doubt that. They look great. They're all in shape. I've heard stuff from some of the festivals that they played. It sounds exactly like it did way back in the day. I'm really excited to see those guys play again. It's cool. It's very cool
to get that opportunity. Being born in '93, I missed a lot of that stuff back in the day. So like, it feels good to finally be able to see that. For me, my idea of hardcore when I was in high school was Killswitch Engage, which saying that out loud.
Right.
Saying that out loud at my first Agnostic Front show was maybe not the best thing to say out loud, but
dare I say I graduated high school in '91.
Oh God. My bad.
That's when Overcast started. It was summer of '91, right after I graduated.
Well, being that this year does mark, or next year marks 10 years of that debut, what was the sort of mindset with that? Because that was, you have your whole life to make your first album, and you have the rest of your life to do it again. So with Expectational Dilution, what was sort of going into that, and how did that maybe influence from what we would heard on Fight Ambition to Kill, and even almost a decade later with Reborn to Kill Again?
Wow, you're asking me a 30-year-old question. I remember everything. We've had those songs for a while, so we knew exactly what we were doing in the studio. We only had time for 3 days, I think, and then maybe one mixing day. So we got everything done super duper fast. West Sound Studios. I remember feeling like, wow, we're actually doing it. It feels, when you're in a band and you're just mucking around and just playing house shows and little parties and maybe a show here or there. And then you finally get in the studio, there's like this certain thing that happens to you. You're like, wow, we're actually recording a record. Things that all my favorite bands did. We're finally at that level where we can do this sort of thing. I mean, today it's old hat, but back then you'd have to go into a studio and actually do it rather than just sit down on your computer and your keyboard and record on Pro Tools or something like that. Much different, much unforgiving recording to tape, which is what we did back in the day. I just remember just wanting to get it done as fast as possible, and that was, Expectational Dilution was the outcome. I know it took us a while to come up with the next record. This is me just trying to go through my memories, and there's not much back there. I remember with Reborn to Kill Again, we thought maybe there could be a resurgence of hardcore. Maybe it would be time to repackage these songs and played well. Back in the day, like I said, we rushed everything so much that a lot of those recordings you can hear some pretty weird stuff going on in the background. Some people just stop playing in the middle of playing, or there's a lot of things that make it the way it is, make it sound like it's done by a group of kids, little kids. So we went in the studio with Adam D and recorded Reborn to Kill Again as professional and as solid as we possibly could. And that was the outcome of that record. I feel like that one came out really good, and it's a good representation of what that band was and how we grew from the first records till that record. Yeah. So whenever we play now, we usually play, that record has a bit of different nuances in some of the songs. We play, whenever we practice, we always have to specify, play this record's version of these songs, because we got like 3 records versions of the exact same songs. Yeah. But yeah, that's the one we go by now, is that one. That's the Bible.
A more current anniversary, though, is that this year marks 10 years of We Ain't Leaving Till You're Bleeding, the debut full-length Death Ray Vision albums.
Wow.
Yeah. I have 2 more anniversary questions after this, so do forgive me. But,
I'm so old.
we're all getting there. But to quote the great Lemmy Kilmister, if you think you're too old to rock and roll, you probably are. But when it comes to the Get Lost When it comes to the Get Lost or Get Dead EP, did that lay down the groundwork from what we would hear off We Ain't Leaving Till You're Bleeding? Because I even still feel like with Ray Vision, I could tell what would be off of Negative Mental Attitude, what would be off of We Ain't Leaving Till You're Bleeding, No Mercy, and same with this new record.
Because of the vibe of each record, you mean?
Yeah.
Because it sounds kind of different. Yeah, I mean, that first 7-inch was exactly like Overcast. We went in thinking like Overcast. Let's just get this done in like a day or two, bang it out, and just get it out. We knew we wanted to do a 7-inch. We wanted to go as old school as possible. We've recorded the same studio every record, so they kind of have a similar flow to them, I suppose, but we mix them in completely different places, so they definitely sound wildly different.
But do you think that, like, with everybody in Killswitch Engage having their own projects, Jesse and Adam with Times of Grace, and Justin, I just interviewed him for Libica, and you doing Ray Vision.
Oh, cool.
I know Joel has a project. Does that maybe help you guys approach Killswitch Engage with like a clean slate in a way?
It gives you a fresh perspective. When you go off and play completely different music and different tunings, like Ray Vision's E drop D, where Killswitch's D drop C, it's dramatically different. The E just rings out like old school hardcore, and I really dig that vibe. But it definitely has a more true feeling to me, a more throwback feeling with that E thrown in there. Yeah.
How different of a mindset?
It really. What's that?
Sorry, I was just going to ask how different of a mindset it is playing with each project in a way. Like, is there a method behind the madness that applies to everything, or does it feel like it's a completely separate form of self-expression depending on the project you're with?
Completely separate form. It feels like being married to two separate people, completely different lives, playing two completely different tunings. The players really affect how the music sounds and how you play as a person as well. And just so much, I've had so much experience playing with Pete Cortez back in Overcast that it was a natural fit for Ray Vision. At first, we weren't sure what we were going to do for guitars and drums, but Brian said, we definitely need Pete. He gets the vibe, and he rounds out the project perfectly. So when we were picking guitars for Ray way back when, he was immediately who we went to. And it's just really easy to work with. The Killswitch stuff, it's been a lot on autopilot up until this record. We always did separate demos, and we would bring them to practice, and I'll listen to the demos at practice and kind of judge what's good, what's bad, what we would take out, and then maybe re-record everything right there with everyone in the room. Where this past time, we've been writing for about a year now. I think we got together last October. We all got in the same room, just like we used to do on the first record, and instantly came up with 6 songs. Got together again, came up with another 6 songs. So we had 12 songs within 3 months. No vocals yet, but just the musicality of it. And then now we're just refining a lot of stuff that Jesse's been doing, and just getting ready to start recording, which may happen very, very soon on that one. 2 totally separate projects. Even Overcast is a completely different beast, different tuning as well.
Well, because being that you play in a band where like the vocals have both as much of an emphasis on aggression and clean at the same time, the good cop, bad cop vocals, as a lot of people say, do you almost have to adjust your technique? Do you almost have to play differently when you're playing to like a clean, epic chorus versus like, a more aggressive verse or something like that?
Oh, of course, yeah, you got to lay in for aggressive stuff, maybe make it growl, maybe make the bass growl a little bit more, and play lighter for some of the higher stuff. Definitely have to pay attention to ringing like when you hit a chord and ringing notes and anything that's gonna ring out as like a harsh kind of a sound or melody with Killswitch in general, because those guys will turn back at you while you're playing and just start laughing. And the last thing you want to do is get laughed at, because then they take it into the back room and you get made fun of sometimes for a little bit. So you got to pay attention and mind your P's and Q's on stage with Killswitch. It's all meant in fun, but you don't want to let the team down, you know.
Well,
Where Death Ray is much more forgiving, much more just raw and punk rock, and less stress as far as radio singles and all that stuff. Just, hey, let's write some cool music and let's get it out there. Oh, okay, we can do that. We have the avenue to do that. Here you go. That type of thing.
Well, being a bass player, and I'm sure you've, like every bass player has in the world of rock and roll, heard your fair share of bass player jokes and memes and whatnot, but it's such an important instrument, and it has both an emphasis on rhythm and melody. And really, when I listen to Killswitch Engage, and I hear, like, you know, like Turning Point, for example, the bass in that is just so emotionally driven, or like a track like Time Will Not Remain. Do you feel that, like, do you prefer to have rhythm or like guitar riffs present before you know like what you're gonna play on the bass, or have you ever had a whole bass pattern written and then the band could write according to that, whether it would be in Death Ray or Killswitch, etc.?
Yeah, definitely both. I've come to Killswitch with bass lines or structures that form into a song, maybe an intro or something like that we use. Those guys will come with an idea, but mostly it's like we absolutely, the drums going to go first, then the guitars, and then the bass, just strictly on a tuning aspect. I hit really hard. I play the bass really, really hard, and it constantly goes out of tune. So if I was to lay down my bass tracks, which I have done before, after the drums, and it's out of tune and they don't realize it, I have to go back and redo all my shit. So I'd rather not do that. I want to get it all done at once. So as long, you know, I'll let them suffer with getting both guitars exactly in tune and all their tracks done as tight as they possibly can, and then I'll go in and shit all over it. Then it's my turn to take a dump on it.
And one of the main reasons I've wanted to interview you, and even like with promoting Killswitch stuff, I've always wanted to talk with you, is because being a visual artist as much as a musician as well. You know, I told you before we started rolling, I wrote about you in my college thesis in art school, and I interviewed Jacob Bannon actually a couple years ago, and he mentioned that like you did some piece in like art school or something like that, inspired by him or something like that, or like maybe yeah, or like I don't know. I figured Massachusetts, two visual artists in a similar scene, maybe you guys had like a sort of a connection in that. But is there a similar energy that you channel into visual art as you do with music in a way? Is it a similar creative process?
Very similar. Yeah, structure-wise in my head, it all looks, the layout of the song and all that stuff looks like patterns to me. It looks like Tetris blocks. And that's how I associate it with images and patterns and all that stuff. It's the exact same way. Going back to Jake and stuff, it's really hard not to mimic each other's work. We definitely have a similar style. We've known each other forever. He's way more of a painter, which is a really cool aspect. I can't draw to save my life, so I feel like I'm a designer, but I'm like half of a designer. I'm like, I wish I had that other aspect to round my artwork a little more solidly and cohesively. But I do what I can. Since I can't, I take a lot of photos. I'm constantly on tour, so I'm able to take photos all around the world of any type of pattern or texture, statue, and I've just accrued so much artwork that I can go to without having to buy it and use my own art these days. Since I can't draw, it's photos. So you got to just find your avenue and work around that. And find your niche, and I think that's my niche.
Don't sell yourself short, because I think that some of the merch that you've designed, you know, I still have all my Killswitch Engage shirts from seeing you guys at my first concert ever in 2009. You know, I think the work that
where was that?
It was April 22nd, 2009. It was Disturbed, you guys, Lacuna Coil, Chimera, Suicide Silence, Bury Your Dead, and Spineshank.
Yeah, that's a good show.
Yep, that
sounds like two tours merged together.
It was Music as a Weapon, so it was kind of like a touring. It was like mini Mayhem Festival, which I know you were on that year too. So, it was a fantastic time.
We had really a lot of fun with the Disturbed guys. I wasn't sure how that was going to go. I'm not a super fan of that band, but they treated us really well. The shows were packed, and we had a really good time. All the opening bands were awesome. And I made a lot of cool friends on that tour. That was a fun one.
Yeah, I got that because, I mean, Bury Your Dead just put out It's Nothing Personal, which is probably like my favorite album in that genre. You know, rest in peace. But I got to see Suicide Silence with Mitch, and fantastic frontman. I got to see Chimera before they broke up. Lacuna Coil is one of my all-time favorites as well, so seeing them for the first time. And I was backstage. I got hooked up with a working crew pass for that show, so I was watching you guys literally from like the side of the stage.
Ah, nice.
Yep. So
yes,
yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah, I think Chimera did some shows recently, right? I don't know if they're getting back together, but that's cool.
I'm waiting for that to come to New York. And
I don't know. I think once you start playing shows again, a new record isn't too far in the future. I hope. It'd be cool to see them do it. I know Shadows Falls doing it right now, and I'm so excited to hear that stuff.
Yeah.
It's really great to see your friends pick it back up and start right where they left off.
I can't wait. Because I really would love to see that whole that whole Massachusetts scene. Like, I'd love to see, you know, all of it come back together for like one big, it's like almost kind of like the Metalcore When We Were Young festival in a way.
Yeah, they're doing that again as well, which is funny. Massachusetts, New England Metal and Hardcore Festival is coming back this year after I think a 6-year hiatus.
Yeah,
and that was like the show to be on, or the show to go to forever. Did a lot of design work for those guys. It was super fun. I think I started around the second one or third one, and every year I'd modify the logo and do some event shirts for those guys. Until the one year I was like, I don't know why you guys are changing this logo so much. Branding, dude, branding. Let's just keep it as one logo. But that just shot myself in the foot, because they're like, okay, we don't need you anymore. we have our logo for the next few years, which is totally cool. I'd rather them do that than just keep, you know, figuring out a new logo that just went in weird, bizarre ways. You know, it's cooler just to brand it and keep it, you know.
Well, when it comes to design work, especially for album covers, whether it will be with Killswitch or like the stuff you've done with All That Remains, I know you did an Armored Saint cover as well. Do you sometimes need music? Like, it maybe applies more to Killswitch, but do you prefer to listen to the album and then you kind of like get a vision of what the work is going to sound like? Because you look at the artwork to End of Heartache, to compare that to As Daylight Dies, you compare that to Disarm the Descent. Every album cover is very diverse and really stands out on its own. It's not like you know, Avenged Sevenfold, for example, where they always have the death bat on there. You know what I mean? It's not like a consistent thing.
I get yelled at if it was too consistent. I remember the dudes in the band saying, no more scratches on records. We have too many scratches. I think I did like 3 in a row or something like that. I just thought it looked cool, but I didn't notice that every record had scratches on it at that point. So I was like, okay, we got to get away from stuff like that. But, you know, now I'm not doing the record covers so much, but just the inner design work and art direction is really fun these days. I can hire different artists to do the covers, like Richie Beckett did the Atonement cover, and it was so much fun to work with him. Disarm the Descent, I worked with Jeremy Saffer, who's a local photographer doing some amazing work these days. It's just really fun to pawn off the work onto somebody else, and maybe the stress too.
I've done
let
design.
them stress out about getting it done.
I've done design work before, so I know the struggle. Like,
I can just then I can just wrangle it and get ideas through their artwork rather than having to come up with my own ideas right off the bat. Got a real unique one that I don't want to talk about for Killswitch. We've never done anything like this before. And it's been in this planning stages for about 2 months now. The one thing I'm going to say is we just got the shipment from Spain for the record cover. That's all I'm going to say.
Hey, I'm gonna be hacking into every FedEx or UPS or whatever shipping service there is to see what that is.
It's going to be quite different and quite unique.
I can't wait.
I'm really excited about it. And I tapped Jeremy Saffer to help me out with it.
Oh, that's all. He's
So
great.
look for that in the future.
I love his photo work. I look at his pages obsessively. Like, I love his work. So
it's fun. He does great work. To answer the question, anyways, Shit. What was it again?
If like you prefer to have like music already present, or like maybe
Yes.
like
Not really. Definitely not Killswitch playing. I know the vibe of that already. If it's a band I'm unfamiliar with, it's cool to listen to. Not necessary. I could throw on a horror movie in the background. It might give me the same kind of feel that I'm going for. The one record I really did listen to a bunch of the music was the Crowbar record, which was one that I had been lobbying for forever, with Sever the Wicked Hand. Talking to Jamie Josta, which was an old friend of ours. He used to book Overcast way back in the day. He's the manager for Kirk and Crowbar, and it was really fun. They were super easy. They pretty much wanted whatever I wanted to do. It was more dealing with Jamie and his art direction to get it to where it needed to go. But that was nonstop Crowbar from the beginning of that project till the very end. Just the heaviness of that music and the feel that you get when you listen to that music. I'm a super fan of that band, and that was like a lifelong dream to be able to get to work on a project like that with them. Yeah.
It's always great when you can really just create a visual experience and share it with somebody who inspires you, like the circle of inspiration. I think that's a congrats on that.
Thank you. It doesn't happen extremely often, but when it does, man, it is sweet tasting.
Of course. I have a few more questions for you if you have time. One other
Sure.
question I wanted to ask is to get that inspiration, whether it will be for music or for design, etc. Do you almost like look for inspiration? You mentioned you're taking photos on tour. You look for this. Is inspiration really something that could be sought out, or do ideas or inspiration just strike out of the blue for you, musically or visually?
Both. But a lot of times I need to just clear my head, maybe flip through some magazines, look at advertising. Also, I don't know if you can tell, all over my walls, I have 80s skateboard decks with different colorways, different, it just really helps me visualize what a color is going to look like next to another color, or even just completely different color schemes that I would never even think of. They're all over my wall. It's just so much stuff I can look at everywhere and get inspiration from. But most of the time it is me just kind of getting away from design, flipping through some magazines, looking at artwork, and just immersing myself in, okay, what do I want to do next? How do I want to do it? And just getting a game plan. Whereas occasionally I'll have the idea already, maybe going through something really tough. The End of Heartache, I was going through some massive changes in my life, and that idea popped into my head. I think is a dream, a heart with nails in it. It was sort of a take on the Slayer cover, God Hates Us All, with the Bible nailed shut, but it's kind of like the less metal version. I don't know, the like more fruity version. I don't know. I was like, oh, well, it's going to be kind of like Slayer, but like maybe the opposite. It's going to be like the love version of Slayer. But I had that record cover done probably a year before the record was finished. And it definitely helped with writing some songs, with naming the song The End of Heartache, which didn't have a name at that point. And that one in particular was one that definitely flowed very fast. But sometimes they're like As Daylight Dies was a tough one. I had no ideas for that one. I was kind of spinning my wheels, and I think I just maybe worked on it too much. I like the special edition versions since then. I like the reissue of the vinyl that we just did not too long ago cover. But the original cover, I don't know. You look back at some stuff and you're unhappy with certain things and you like certain things, and that's one I think could have been better. And unfortunately, that's like the big seller, the biggest record we have, and I fucked it up.
Hey, that was my
What
first.
can you do?
That was my first Killswitch album. I look at that cover with such sentimental feelings, so I wouldn't change anything about it. It made.
I've changed it since then.
It made an impact and served as an inspiration for all of us. If that makes you feel any better about it, so.
Awesome. Yeah. I think if you line them up, that's the one that stands out as being the weakest. Maybe it's not the worst album cover in the world, but I can do better.
Fair enough. And speaking of End of Heartache, I needed to ask this. I asked Justin this too, just for the fans out there. Speaking of anniversaries, next year being 20 years of that album, can we be expecting any sort of anniversary or any celebration of that album, because the artwork for it, you're right, in a way, it's more than just, I feel like the artwork in that is a classical piece of art, at least in the world of metal. It really, like, that emotion, you get an emotion just looking at that album cover. So to see that at a backdrop on a celebration would be a great experience as well. Can we be expecting a celebration of that, if you're allowed to say, of course?
Oh, I'd be allowed to say probably, if we ever thought of it. It really hasn't been brought up. It'll probably be brought up now. It's a great idea. The unfortunate and weird thing is you just got to take into account that that's not Jesse's record.
Of course.
He likes that record a lot, but it's not him singing on it. So do we want to force him into a situation where he's doing stuff that maybe he's a little less than excited about, or just not as invested in? We like to keep it to, we play a lot of the hits that from different records that Howard did, but we want Jesse to be happy too.
Of course.
So that would be a discussion to see how we could go about doing something like that.
Well, speaking of which, because my favorite Killswitch Engage album ever is Disarm the Descent. Because I think when it comes to that, to me, there was two amazing comeback records of 2013: Carcass's Surgical Steel, and then the comeback with Jesse.
Carcass record, I was blown away. Holy moly, I could not believe how good that was.
Unpopular opinion, it beats Heartwork for me. I'll say that right now. I may have earned a couple dislikes on this video for saying that, but I'll stick to it. But
the drumming is awesome. The drumming is so good in that, on the newest, the Surgical Steel record.
I had to get mouth surgery in 2021, and they let me put music on the speaker while they were doing it, and I put on that record, and that most metal experience ever. So
yes, I bet. Yeah. Wow.
But with Disarm the Descent, because when you open up with The Hell in Me and you end with either Time Will Not Remain or Bloodstains, the bonus track, what was the mindset going into the comeback of that album in a way? Because there's such an essence of camaraderie on that record and just such a beautiful vibe on it. In Due Time is a track that motivates us all and helps us through great times. You Don't Bleed for Me, I must have played that song on repeat during the election. So what was that sort of mindset with Disarm the Descent?
We knew we had to come out with a bang. We knew we had to show the fans that Jesse was back, and he's back in a big way. We had done Metal Fest. It was his first real show back. I think 2012. No, 2012. That sounds about right. Hopefully.
Yeah.
And it was such a heartwarming reaction and an amazing feel from the crowd. I definitely shed a few tears after that show. We knew that we needed to give those fans back what they gave to us. So we really went over and over that record. We fine-tooth combed to really get that thing to where we thought fans would really appreciate it. And I think we got it to the right place. That one's probably my second or third favorite Killswitch record. It really feels right. Every track kind of rolls into the other one pretty good. I haven't listened to it from beginning to end in a long time. But I'm really excited to check it out again now that you mentioned it.
Yeah.
I love the cover of that one. I thought it came together really, really well. We had the idea of the veil kind of floating in the wind from a friend of ours. And believe it or not, that's a leaf blower blowing the veil on the cover to get it just the right way. Jeremy Saffer was using wires. He was using all sorts of stuff that didn't really look right. And he finally was using a leaf blower. He's like, this is my last shot. He must have done, I think I got 3 or 4 days worth of photos just to get the right look on the wavy veil, which is a crazy thing.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I'm not going to look at that album cover the same anymore. That's amazing.
It was cool. He was a champ. I love Jeremy Saffer. I love working with him. And like I said, I'm working with him on the new record. So I can't expect anything less than perfection. That kid is so good at what he does. And I kept saying, the veils look good, but they kind of look fake. Can we get it more dreamy, more dreamlike? Oh yeah, no problem. He sent me a whole nother day's worth of stuff. I'm not sure. I mean, this is good. This is really good, but blah, blah, blah. Okay, one more. And you just keep going until I liked what I got.
That's
It was so
awesome.
cool.
That's a great story of easily my favorite Killswitch album. So thank you for telling me that.
Oh, sweet.
Yep. And the final question I wanted to ask you is circling back to Death Ray Vision, because with the hardcore influences in there, I could tell that you take a lot of inspiration from hardcore. And again, I think like We Ain't Leaving Till You're Bleeding, give it maybe 30 years from now, I see that being just as classic of anything I've heard of A Sick of It All or A Life of Agony or you name it. I
Wow.
think it really, it to me, it has a
Thanks.
lot of hardcore nostalgia throughout. And that's, you guys are all guilty of that. I know Jesse's also doing the weapons, so like there's a lot of hardcore inspirations. But I never understood that there was. I always have this discussion how there was such a difference between metal and hardcore in a way. I never understood how a person who listens to Agnostic Front or Sick of It All couldn't appreciate a Slayer or a Testament or an Anthrax or something like that. What would you say is the big difference between metal and hardcore? And as somebody who is credited with being in a band that has combined the two together.
Well, I think there's not a lot of difference these days now that metal and hardcore have melded so great together. It just seems to fit. I think it's just all aggressive music now. It's whether you lay into sort of the punk aspect or you lay into maybe the more Megadethy virtuoso aspect as to where the split derives. Maybe it really all started back in the day when I was going to shows and you would see long-haired kids and you'd see the short-haired kids, and they would not mix. They would not stand next to each other. As a matter of fact, the short-haired guys, bullies, would beat up a lot of long-haired kids just for their hair, just because maybe they liked metal, which is such a shame. It was so weird to see a band on stage that had short hair and long hair. It just never happened, which is so fucking strange, right, to say that in this day and age. But back then, Wrecking Crew, Keith, who played bass, had long hair. The rest of the band had short hair, and it was the only band I had known that was doing anything like that that was still considered hardcore. And fights would ensue just over that alone. They would just say maybe one thing about hair, and just brawls would happen, and people would get tossed out of the venue. And it's such a shame. Even back then, I had sort of a stigma against metal. All my friends hated it. And I was sort of just sneaking metal in whenever I could, here and there, listening to Anthrax, listening to Metallica, and without telling my friends. And I just fell in love with the whole genre, the aggressiveness and the melding of the two, the hardcore and the metal together, just forming just a more aggressive style of music. I don't even know if it's metalcore. I don't know if it's even metal or hardcore anymore. It's got this old vibe to it, which is really great. Yeah, long-haired, short-haired kids. It's always been such a strange thing, but now it doesn't make a difference. Obviously, anybody can do whatever the heck they want with their hair.
Yeah. Well, not all.
Did I get too far away from your original question?
Not at all. Not at all. Because people have called Killswitch metalcore all the time, but I ask people what is metalcore, and they say it's music that has singing and screaming in it. But like, does that make Amorphous a metalcore band, or like Soilwork or Fear Factory? Because I would never call those bands metalcore for anything.
Yeah, I don't know. Metalcore has such a weird vibe to it, weird saying, and they just started pinning it on us out of nowhere. We did take metal, we smashed it into hardcore, and we tried to do something new with it, take metal up to another level, possibly. The unfortunate thing, I guess, would just be a lot of the generic stuff that follows when you create something that's a little bit different or a little off the beaten path. And that may have kind of drug the whole genre down a bit. At first, we didn't really like the title. We were just a metal band. We just always wanted to be a metal band, and that was the form of metal that had taken place and came out of us. Sometimes you can't help what comes out when you're playing, and I think the five guys in the band really helped to contribute to that Killswitch sound or Death Ray sound. I think Death Ray is the one band where we really went in and said we really want to do this more of a hardcore punk way, more of a throwback way, keep it in line with Overcast, maybe stuff like that. And for the longest time, I thought it was a hardcore band, and then Keith joined and said, this is a metal band. We need to talk about this. This is the furthest thing from a hardcore band that I've ever heard.
And you were probably just
so there's that. So I don't know. Yeah. I can't tell.
So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time and for such a great conversation. And most of all, thank you for amazing new music to top 2023 off. Is there just anything else with Ray Vision that you would like to promote, or Killswitch, if you're allowed to say at this time, of course?
All right. Well, Ray Vision, the record comes out June 30th. We're so excited to get it out finally. We passed it in last October. So it's just been a long, arduous wait. Really, we've been so excited. We've been booking a lot of shows, and hopefully we're at a tour or two under our belt before Killswitch starts getting it back into main swing. But just really excited for everyone to hear it. We have 2 videos out. You can go to metalblade.com, and they have a link to a page with both our new videos out. We're going to probably have another couple lyric videos. Like I said, I've done some lyric videos for the band. I'm really excited to show people. I just put up a live Ray Vision set, the entire set that I filmed with 2 GoPros, first time editing anything, and I put it up on YouTube, so hopefully people can check that out. Killswitch is going to be in Europe in August. It's our first time since the pandemic to be back in Europe. We're really excited to be back. It's been so long. Really stoked to get back there. We're doing a ton of festivals. We're doing Faken for the second time ever. We're doing Dynamo for the first time ever. Was really stoked to be there. We're playing Bloodstock, which is in the UK, and it's a fly. I think we have to fly in from somewhere, but they offered to do an art gallery for me for there in this little hut. So I'm doing I think a 25 piece art gallery. So anybody who checks us out, there's going to be a lot of stuff online about it. Hopefully, fingers crossed. I haven't seen too much about it now, but I'll be having an art gallery at the Bloodstock Festival in the UK, and that is in August. So look out for that.
That's amazing. That's so awesome. I keep saying there needs to be a heavy metal art exhibition where it would be your work, Jacob Bannon, John Baisley, Nicholas Sundin, Mike Shinoda, like everybody, like every metal visual artist needs to have like their own like group exhibition together.
It'd be neat to get them all together in one building. It'd be really fun. Yeah, it's exciting to even be offered the gig of having an expo like that. It's nothing I ever aspired to, and it's really fun looking through old folders of stuff and just saying crap. Okay, this could be crap. You know, just like going through everything and weeding out the garbage.
Yeah.
But I think I got like 25 really cool pieces that people are going to really be stoked on. I tried to, some of the vinyl record covers I did, I kept them in record cover form with the jacket opened up gatefold style. So you can see the front, the back, and the inside all on one sheet. It really helps you visualize what I see when I'm making these things happen.
That's awesome. Oh man, I might have to fly out now to Bloodstock. So,
I think they might have prints for sale too. I'm not positive. We haven't really discussed it, but
well, I'm definitely flying out to Bloodstock now. Thanks. But thank you so much, everybody. Mike D of Killswitch, Engage, Overcast, and Ray Vision. No Mercy from Electric Eyes, out June 30th via Metal Blade Records. Be sure to pick that up. This is Alex from Heavy New York, and we will see you next time.